Welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. It is April 1st, Friday, April 1st, TGIF. Welcome into the CHGO studios here in the West Loop. This is Studio A. I'm your host, Shawn Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Shawn_W_Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He is the CHGO White Sox beat writer. He's currently got an article up analyzing the AJ Pollock trade. If you haven't heard, the White Sox traded for AJ Pollock. We'll break down that trade right away, but you can go read Vinny's thoughts up at allchgo.com. That is unlocked and free to everyone. You don't have to be a member to access that. And the man in the middle, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ectorwall23. He is our CHGO White Sox community leader. Herb, there's one guy who's been asking me to unblock you, if you want to unblock him on Twitter. So
I mean, usually I blocked him because he probably swore at me. I'm a grown man. I don't take those two. I'll have any argument with you, but as long as we keep it cordial, that's the way you stay unblocked. But if he's a good guy, let him have his application out there. I'll see if I can get it through.
I think what we should do is we should start making this more of a streamlined process. A lot of people, you blocked a lot of people on Twitter, apparently. They all want me to have you unblock them. We should set up an email, unblockme@allchgo.com. It will be great.
Unblock me, Herb.
And all your applications. Maybe you pissed off Vinny, too, and maybe you got blocked by him. But that's...
I don't block, I mute.
Oh, there you go.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery to everyone, whether they're...
Those are our panelists, Herb Lawrence,
If somebody
Vinnie Duber,
said, like,
Elvis
Costello is not a good rocker, would you block them?
I wouldn't block. I'd mute.
You mute him?
I'd mute, yeah.
All right.
For bad Elvis Costello takes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want any bad Elvis Costello takes on my timeline.
Do they get a couple chances, or is it just, one strike and you're out with Elvis Costello?
There could be some negative takes that I might agree with. You know what I mean? That's fine. But, like, come on. Don't go going after Elvis Costello.
If you want, during the episode, think of a negative Elvis Costello take that you have.
Oh, I have plenty.
Oh,
yeah.
What's one?
I mean, like, way too much classical music. Like, come on, man. You're a rock and roller from the late 70s. We don't need you. We don't need to be going into Burt Bacharach songs. Come on now.
We don't need to be getting into Burt Bacharach here too on the CHGO White Sox podcast because a lot of news has happened and we have a huge guest on today's show. On today's show, we'll be talking to you about Garrett Crochet. He left last night in the 8th inning in a spring training game against the Cincinnati Reds. We've got some news from Rick Hahn and it's not sounding good. We'll start off with the bad, but the good news is AJ Pollock is now a White Sox. He was traded for Craig Kimbrel. We'll break down the deals of that. And then at 2:40, the host of Hot Ones, Shawn Evans, will be joining the show. We'll get to chat with Shawn Evans, lifelong Sox fan, and obviously you know him from one of the best interview shows out there on YouTube, Hot Ones. So excited to talk about that all today on the CHGO White Sox podcast. Let's quit wasting time, though. The trade happened right before I left my house at 11 a.m. today. Craig Kimbrel is now a Los Angeles Dodger. AJ Pollock is now a Chicago White Sox. It seems like the money is pretty clear to sort out, pretty even money-wise. It's pretty much a straight-up trade. AJ Pollock for Craig Kimbrel. What were your immediate thoughts? I'm going to go to you first, Herb. What were your thoughts here?
Awesome. Just like the White Sox have a complete outfield, people who have played the outfield. And AJ Pollock is a plus bat. I don't think he's been a OPS plus minus guy his whole career as a Diamondback or a Dodger. The only problem with AJ Pollock is health, just like our other two outfielders. So to get Craig Kimbrel's money off of the books, where you have a surplus of you're trading from strength, there's a surplus of good right-handed relievers, and then you acquire a player like AJ Pollock. Rick Hahn does it again. I mean, the man is a magician. He waited till like the week before the game's going to start. Like, we'll be into like the 7th inning next week to make his moves. But these are outstanding. This is an outstanding move. I could not be happier. And I was just telling you guys, like, it's not like a earth-shattering thing to get a 34-year-old AJ Pollock. But for this championship caliber team and the White Sox, it's an awesome move. And you can see the reaction of White Sox fans. They're through the moon about the acquisition of a player that you know is going to hit if he's healthy. You know he's going to field the ball if he's on the outfield. It just makes his team that much better.
Yeah, Vinny, you talked about calming angst in your fan angst in your article today. How much do you think it has calmed fan angst, and why do you think it's calming fan angst here?
I think you guys wanted a move like this, and I think you got it. You know what I mean?
100%.
You know, I've heard nothing but Michael Conforto for the last few weeks, and I think at the end of the day, Michael Conforto's good. Is Michael Conforto, the future MVP of the league or anything like that? I think Sox fans wanted something that wasn't a couple relievers, as good as those relievers were. And they got their something today. Obviously, that's not why Rick Hahn made the move, made it to make his team better, and that's what he did. I think the bottom line is White Sox fans wanted to see the kind of move the contenders make, and that's what this was, even if it wasn't from the Twins go get Carlos Correa aspect or the Mets break the bank for Max Scherzer angle. What it was the type of move that the Dodgers make. And, I mean, it's just so happened to be with the Dodgers, but, I think we've sat here and talked about this over and over again in the last few weeks. I thought that the White Sox had a roster that could win the World Series. I thought they had a right field situation that could allow them to win and win big. But go look at the Dodgers. They don't stop. Right. They don't say, yeah, this is a winning team. They say, let's just keep piling guys on and that can only increase our chances of winning. That's what the White Sox did in getting Pollock, in addition to a lot of other positive things, Herb, that you mentioned. The guy can hit. I've been talking about how they needed a bat, maybe more than a right fielder this whole time. They went out and got the bat. A lot of other people said there was a hole in right field because Andrew Vaughn is not a right fielder. And guess what? Now they went out and got a guy who's won a Gold Glove playing the outfield. So I think that this satisfied every aspect of what people thought the White Sox needed, and it was one of those moves that even if it wasn't that big splashy thing that everybody wanted at the start of the offseason, it was the type of move that makes them more likely to win the World Series than they were when everybody woke up this morning.
Well, and the thing, too, is like we've been focusing on Conforto, and I did a bad job yesterday of not going to the YouTube comments that were mentioning like they could have even signed Jorge Soler, and I would have been happy. Eddie Rosario, who signed for under $20 million, I would have been happy. Like, they didn't need to be extremely aggressive, but they needed to make a move. And I was just getting frustrated over the fact that they couldn't make a move, or they haven't made a move just yet. Now that they've made a move, you talked about them before even you thinking that they had World Series expectations. I didn't have those type of expectations. Now I feel a little bit more comfortable feeling that this White Sox team, at least at opening day, is at a very, very good starting point. And the fact that they still have players that they can trade, Jake Berger, Gavin Sheets, whomever, to fill out the roster. We've seen what Rick Hahn has done before at trade deadlines. I feel very, very, very good about this opening day roster for the Chicago White Sox after this trade because they needed a bat. Like you said, they went out and added a bat, and finally seeing that bat on this roster has calmed a lot of nerves.
Well, and that's what I wrote about today is that, like, again, in my opinion, I thought there was, and you could even say objectively, there was a ton of reason for fans to be very, very excited about this White Sox team this year, but they were holding off on that excitement until something like this happened. And now that something like this has happened, I feel like it's like, you guys are allowed to be excited. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, all right, now we feel like, okay, we are allowed to have the excitement that really was deserved all along, but you were holding it back just in case, and now you guys are able to really kind of let that fly.
Yeah, exactly. You just wanted the team to recognize what we recognize, and I'm sure they did, and I'm sure Rick is like, as you have stated many times, like, the offseason is still going on, and it's still going on right now until probably into the season, too, because of the nature of the lockout. So Rick is like, I got plenty of time. And he probably knew he had some deals working already to get AJ Pollock for Craig Kimbrel. It's mind-blowing to me. Like, I was looking at, you can get a Gene Segura, you can get a player that is a little lesser than AJ Pollock. AJ Pollock, to me, especially coming off the year that he just had, is a plus bat. It's a bat that is going to be batting bottom third of your lineup for the White Sox, and he's going to be doing damage. Last year he had 21 home runs and 120 games. The guy is a hitter, and he can field his position very well. Like, I love Andrew Vaughn, and he's going to get his bats at designated hitter and probably some in right field too. But to go to the season with Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets, I was resigned, and I was like, that was going to be fine. Now I'm so relieved that he's not going to be doing that for 162 games. Oh, it feels so good to have an actual outfield, people who played the position.
Right. No, I absolutely agree, because the best thing that was about Vaughn and Sheets was their bat, and that's why they played themselves into right field. Two natural first basemen played themselves into right field because of how well they performed with their bat. Now you look at that right field spot, you have such a adequate fielder in Adam Engel with the potential of a bat that could be average, something that he's shown before if he's healthy, and you have AJ Pollock, a guy that is clearly a major leaguer. Health has been his only true setback in his career, but outside of that, he has performed every single year, and what I have loved is seeing the natural progression of his career. His best year was in 2015 when he was 27. He still had his speed. He still had all of his health. He hit 20 home runs, stole 39 bags, posted a 6-8 WAR season, playing good center field defense. That is not the player the White Sox have just acquired. They have acquired, though, somebody who is now 33 and has just become more balanced at the plate, truly understands how to attack plate appearances, and you've seen the career high now in home runs. He's up to 21. That's his career high. Just hit that last year. Still the same batter profile-wise. He's still going to take walks, not a huge strikeout guy, but also he doesn't hit the ball on the ground, which I absolutely love. He's been taking down his ground ball rate year and year and year. It's below 40% now. He just hits fly balls, and when they're up in the air, they go out more often now than ever before in his career. And he started now just absolutely hitting more barrels of the bat, over 10% in the past 2 years, his barrel percentage. He's never been over 10% in any other season. So he has truly become a experienced hitter, which the White Sox really did need. We've seen that in the postseason before. The bats have gone silent. Jose Abreu hasn't had the best two past postseasons. Eloy has been injured and up and down. Tim Anderson has really been the one guy that has shown out in both postseasons for the Sox. I just think the experience that Pollock brings to this team, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be so important to this lineup because, yes, it is very deep, but we look at it, not a lot of experience. Pollock brings a ton of experience and a ton of playoff experience to this team.
Well, you talk about playoff experience. Look at the guys that the White Sox have added. You know what I mean? Even dating all the way back to the Grandal and Keuchel offseason, you're talking about a guy in Grandal who had been to the World Series, a guy in Keuchel who had won the World Series, and now we're looking at Lance Lynn, who's won the World Series. Even just this year, Kendall Graveman was on the mound to close out 3 World Series games last year. Joe Kelly, famously, with both the Dodgers and the Red Sox in the World Series, and now you're adding a guy in Pollock who's been there the last 3 years with the Dodgers, including winning a World Series in 2020. I mean, these guys are added for a reason, and you go out and get winning players to help you win. Yeah. I think a lot of people scoff at it sometimes because they like looking at the numbers that they can grasp on a screen or on the back of a baseball card. But to have guys like that who know what it's like when the lights get bright, that's a very important thing. As I think the White Sox learned negatively last year. You know what I mean? I think the White Sox were on that stage really for the first time because you don't really count 2020 in the empty ballparks out there in Oakland. And I think if you talk to those guys, as I did in the spring, that's the thing that they keep coming back to as well. Now we know what it's like kind of thing. They keep adding guys who really know what it's like, who know what it's like to get to the end of that playoff run, to win that trophy at the end of things. And that's very important, I think.
Yeah, and not only do they have that playoff experience, and like you said, they're really good. Like, they're not just like, hey, I was on a World Series winning team. I was competing. I was actually one of the reasons why we won the World Series. And for those young players like Luis Robert, like Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson himself, Jose Abreu, those things might get you might get tight in those situations. AJ Pollock's like, hey, man, I've been here. I've done it. Just play you. Be you. You're good enough to win in the playoffs. Some encouraging word for him. Hey, I was in this situation in 2020. We did this, that, and the other World Series. Type of things that you can't get unless you have experience, and those players have experience. I don't know how much you can learn from losing 2 series like the White Sox just did. Maybe, you can say, hey, we have playoff experience and we don't want to do that again, so we'll do the opposite of what we did in the playoffs.
Right.
But guys who've been there, done that, can impart actual knowledge and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, guys.
And I think we're on the same wavelength here.
Giolito?
Well, no, I was going to say, I think I forgot to list when I was listing all the guys with playoff experience, the most important one. Tony La Russa.
That's true. Yeah, I've heard he's been there a couple times. But I immediately went to Lucas Giolito talking about, like, I understand your point. Like, yes, we've had playoff experience, but like Lucas talked about them being unprepared compared to the Astros. Like they didn't have, like the Astros were just ready for this opportunity.
Because they knew. Because they'd been there before.
So, and that's something that the White Sox, I think, have lacked. This is something that, AJ Pollock can bring this experience and the batted ball profile. This is what the Sox need. They need to get away from ground balls. They need to get away from more. They need to get to more fly balls. This guy is absolutely got the profile that you want of a 33-year-old hitter.
Jimbo tweet right there, a text about the. What's that?
He has a 146 weighted runs created plus versus right-handers last season, which is crazy, especially being a right-handed pitcher. Just got to make sure that how many times. What's the splits on that? Do you have like 5 at bats? Let's check.
I mean, with the Dodgers, they probably put like Beatty or McKinstry in the game when they're facing.
I mean, versus right-handers, he played more games than left-handers, and he was better against right-handers than he was left-handers. So let's go, baby. Adam Engel going to be playing right field against left-handers. And speaking of, looking at the lineup, let's look at this lineup before we get away from this and talk about the player that is left. We got Craig Kimbrel leaving, but let's look at the projected White Sox lineup for 2022. Tim Anderson leading off at shortstop. Luis Robert second, playing center field. Jose Abreu batting third, playing first base. Yasmani Grandal cleanup. Catching batting fifth. Eloy Jimenez in left field. Pat Hughes makes this seem so easy when he does this. Batting sixth, Yohan Moncada playing third base. AJ Pollock in right field.
Say Moncada.
Yohan Moncada. Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets splitting time at DH, and then Leary Garcia and Josh Harrison at second base. That's a lineup right there.
Well, it just goes to show you, too. This is a celebratory day for White Sox fans. Everybody is, saying finally and raising their hands to the sky. You guys just got a 7-hitter. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That really should. And that's not to say. No. I mean, that's to point out what kind of spot they were in before, what kind of spot they're in now. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's a lineup right there.
That puts the point down. Like, this is not like a earth-shattering move, but it makes White Sox fans feel euphoric. And I was thinking right there, like, the only thing AJ Pollock needs to do is, like, every single right fielder and left fielder who's playing Luis Robert. I know you're a Gold Glover.
Right.
Balls to your left, catch them. Balls to your right, look for 88. Do not hit 88. That derails everything if you hit 88. Do not hit them. I don't care if you're good.
That's what you got Eloy for on the other side, for them to run into each other every once in a while.
He's not like an elite defender, AJ Pollock. Just looking at the past stuff, he hasn't played a ton of right field as well, which will be an adjustment for him. I do wonder what his arm will be out like there, but he has experience out in the outfield, which is most important. So that's definitely something to look out for. Hasn't played a ton of right field, so it'll be a new position for him.
And good thing for him, when spring's about to break, doesn't have to move. Just right over the clubhouse.
Right. Trading neighbors with the
same thing with Craig.
Neighbors.
Just grabs his White Sox bag and walks over.
Walks down the path behind the field.
Grabs his Cub bag that he brought to Guaranteed Rate last year and takes it over to Dodgers camp.
You're talking about Craig Kimbrel.
Yeah.
This is the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Use code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. That's the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. That's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we will help you out. It's something I got to let you know about. This weekend, obviously the tournament's happening on Saturday. You got the last 4 teams in. I don't want to use any copyrighted impossible terms here, but during PointsBet's Match Madness, all users can earn up to $100 in free bets. During each round, just place a $50 pregame wager and get a free $20 live bet to be used for that round. So if you feel excited about Duke's possibility to win, if you feel excited about UNC's possibility to win, you want to put a $50 wager down on them to win before the game, you'll also get a $20 live free bet. So you can watch the game, and hey, if your team's losing, you can always cover yourself by taking advantage of that free $20 live bet if you take advantage of PointsBet's Match Madness. Again, use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000 on PointsBet. So what are you waiting for once the game starts? Don't just bet, live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We have to talk about CHGO really quickly. You You can become a member at allchgo.com. You get access when you become a member to our Discord, the CHGO Lounge. I know a lot of people are enjoying it. You get to talk to us.
Our guy Luke in.
Yeah, Brewhand Luke's in there now. Alex Rude's in there now. We're starting a White Sox party in the Discord. And the cool thing, too, is on Monday, we're going to be doing our first ever Mailbag Monday episode. If you want to get questions in for that, that will be Discord only. So we will be taking questions for the Mailbag Monday through our Discord. So if you're looking to get your questions submitted in, go to allchgo.com. And if you remember, not only you get access to the CHGO Lounge, you get a free T-shirt when you sign up. Those are shipping out, and people are getting them soon. So you got to get in on the fun. You're going to see a lot of dope merch walking around Chicago, a lot of dope CHGO merch walking around Chicago. But then you also get access to the premium written content that Vinnie Duber is pushing out about your Chicago White Sox. Now, the most recent one he put out is free. But all the other stuff, like the Garrett you wrote about Crochet, right?
Crochet and Kopech.
I wrote about Crochet
before the
pre-injury
right.
the other day, and I'm sure we'll have something on Crochet coming post.
You also wrote about Andrew Vaughn recently as well. That's behind the paywall, so you can become a member and get access to the premium written content at allchgo.com. Now, the one part of the trade we didn't talk about was the Craig Kimbrel part. We didn't get too deep into that because there's also more news. Garrett Crochet left the game last night at the spring training game against the Reds in the 8th inning. Apparently bounced a ball like 3 feet in front of the plate, then had to leave down the right field line with the trainers. Before we get into the Craig Kimbrel and the Garrett Crochet stuff, well, I mean, let me phrase it this way. You lose Craig Kimbrel in the trade. You possibly lose Garrett Crochet for the entire season. What do these two losses mean to the Chicago White Sox bullpen? I'll go to Vinny first.
I think the good news is, or the silver lining, whatever you want to call it, is why they traded Kimbrel in the first place. The bullpen is stacked. The bullpen was the position of strength. It was probably the best facet of the entire team when everybody woke up this morning. The reason that they signed Kendall Graveman and the reason they signed Joe Kelly were to be those premier setup guys in front of Liam Hendricks. Craig Kimbrel, had he stuck around, would have been a very nice piece to have in the bullpen, but he wasn't going to be expected to be the guy that they thought he was going to be when they got him in the trade last summer. And so it was going to just be surplus. And, of course, as Rick Hahn loves to tell you, you can never have enough pitching, and so that would have been just fine. But you deal from a position of strength to go address a weakness or go address a need. That's what Rick Hahn did this morning. Now, the loss of Crochet is a little different. It's a little more impactful, I think, because he throws with the left hand. And I think that the left-handedness of him, you take away one of two big league left-handers you had in that bullpen, the other being Aaron Bummer, who obviously is also going to have a really large role on this team. And you just run into a shortage. You have a shortage there right now. Obviously, they have got guys that they can plug in, and I would expect that one of the lefties that they have in camp still is going to make the big league roster just so Aaron Bummer isn't the only left-hander out there. But it's a little bit more of an unknown. Garrett Crochet was going to be leaned on to maybe not just be a good reliever, but a guy who could give you multiple innings at a time, and a guy who looked really good in spring training, by the way, too. So it's definitely a loss, but given that he was projected to be such a long-term piece, it's not like they lose him forever, but to lose him for this year obviously is not great.
Herb, I have a theory. I was very interested when they signed Kendall Graveman this offseason. And then when they signed Joe Kelly, that felt like the replacement to Craig Kimbrel. So now looking at this roster, I don't worry too much about the Kimbrel loss. Do you? Because I think that they made it up with Graveman and Kelly, those signings. I worry a lot about Crochet because of the handedness and obviously because of his future potential. But with Kimbrel, is this that big of a loss, or is it easily stomachable with the Pollock acquisition?
Yeah, and Vinny said it perfectly. Like, they traded from a position of strength. And think about this. I think about this this morning. I was like, Rick Hahn last night knew that Garrett Crochet left that game and knew that he was probably in trouble. And he still made that trade today. Maybe that trade was already done in principle yesterday, but he was like, yeah, I'll still trade away Craig Kimbrel to get AJ Pollock, so I'm fine. I'm good. I think they've very insulated their bullpen. It's awesome. Like, you have the best reliever in baseball, and Liam Hendricks, and Kendall Graveman is closing out World Series games, as Vinny just said. Like, we have a whip. And when Joe Kelly joins the team after his injury, that bullpen is going to be filthy. Yes, the handedness and the actual good pitching of Garrett Crochet will be missed, 100%. But I think they can have somebody give you a nice representative effort out there as a left-hander. I mean, when Jace Fry was here a couple of years ago, I know he's not with the team anymore, but he was decent. You can find a guy like if Souza steps up, or your man Anderson Severino steps up, or
Shawn Anderson Severino.
Shawn Anderson Severino. Finnegan is in camp, I believe. Former big leaguer Brandon Finnegan's in camp. I'm not too worried about Garrett Crochet being out. It sucks personally for him. Sucks for the White Sox as a whole because we were counting on him to be a big-time bullpen piece. But I think overall, everything that's happened, the White Sox are a much better team. Not much better, just a better team that they not now than they were yesterday.
The Crochet loss is very, very important, but again, that is still a very deep bullpen. So it is something I have less of a concern about. Let's talk about replacing Crochet now, because I think the more interesting conversation about him is the long-term effects that it has on his future. But let's talk about replacing Garrett Crochet. We do have some free agents here that are currently available. Richard Rodriguez is an important name, former World Series winner with the Braves last year and a former Pirate. Tony Watson, 37-year-old left-hander, posted a .8 WAR season between I think it was the Padres and Giants. He finished out the season with the Giants. It was the Angels and Giants last year. Rafael Dolis, he was a former Blue Jay. You got John Curtis. He was a former Brewer. Josh Tomlin. He's been bouncing around. He's a former Cleveland guy, former Brave guy. Chaz Rowe, former Ray guy. Dylan Patansis is out there as well, former Yankee closer, and former White Sox. I had to throw him in there because he's a left-hander. Ross Detweiler. So any names out there that are interesting? Like if they go out and add a name, does it have to be a left-hander? Because Bennett Sousa is in the pipeline. He's been progressively getting better and better down there. He's had a good spring. Like, is that the easiest solution? Probably the route that they'll take is just call up Sousa, or any of those names interesting enough?
First of all, that picture of Rick that was on that graphic looks like he's trying to sell me a cell phone plan on that one.
That was when they said
that was ripped right out of a magazine ad, I think.
That's when Andrew Freeman said, "Yeah, we'll take all of Kimbrel's salary."
There you go. But yeah, I mean, I think they've made their bullpen acquisitions this year, and again, you can never have too many. Maybe you see a guy who's more of a fringe major leaguer, that gets signed to a minor league deal, and if you need him, call him up, kind of thing. But I think right now they probably go with, because of what a strength that bullpen is. You know what I mean? If this was Kendall Graveman we were talking about, or if this was Kelly that we're talking about, now all of a sudden you have to fill the role of and fill the shoes of somebody who was expected to play a very, very big part from a veteran standpoint. Again, we talked about it. Crochet was expected to be, a featured player in that bullpen, but right now the main concern, because of the depth you have everywhere else, is to find another lefty. They've got some other lefties. I wouldn't be surprised if they try it. And who knows? Maybe if those don't work, then we're talking about trade deadline rolls around and the White Sox biggest need is a left-handed reliever, because it seems like every trade deadline, everybody always needs a reliever. So that would not surprise me at all. But right now, I would predict that they would stay in-house at the moment.
Any of those names interesting, the free agent ones?
I mean, Ross Detweiler, when 2020 he was on the team, I thought he did a really serviceable job. When he was left off the playoff roster, I was like, wow, that guy's been doing well for the White Sox in spot starts and relief appearances. I know he's a little longer in the tooth and not necessarily the guy that showed up at the South Side, but take a flyer on some player that happens to throw left-handed, and if it's Ross Detweiler can give you that, or Bennett Sousa, so be it. I just need outs.
Right.
I mean, I know handedness is important, and so batters, especially left-handers, do not like facing some lefties. So it'll be tough at bat if you get a guy that can get lefties out. But get outs. That's all I want. And I think this current bullpen, not afraid of handedness. The lefty versus Kendall Graveman, he'll strike out just like a righty.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. And the White Sox always bring this up when you talk to them about their bullpen pitchers. Specifically, Aaron Bummer comes to mind. They always say it doesn't matter what the hand of the bat is. We've got guys that can go out and face anybody. And so I think that the days of the lefty specialists, especially with the new rules that have come in, are maybe a little antiquated anyway. And so I think Garrett Crochet was going to be expected to face both hands of batters. Right. You know what I mean? So
and they do have that's the positive of the White Sox bullpen. Everyone throws over 95 miles per hour. Everyone has dangerous breaking stuff. Like they just have a ton of talent in that bullpen. It was, before Crochet went down, the most talented bullpen. And before Kimbrel was traded, the most talented bullpen in baseball. So, I mean, I do like the quality of arms that they have, but I don't like the depth of arms that they have. You look at the MLB experience of the left-handers, the only ones that are currently healthy are Keuchel and Bummer. Those are the only left-handers in the complete organization with major league experience. To me, that's a concern. And, Ross Detweiler, I don't think he'd be expensive. I think you could probably bring him back on a minor league contract. And you talked about his 2020 with the Sox. Through his first 15 games, a 1.47 ERA, 18 innings, 3 earned runs, like serviceable for a guy that, you're just looking to get outs. Like it could just be the Jose Ruiz equivalent of a left-hander, which I like, but again, I'm a left-hander, so I am biased. Let's get into the Garrett Crochet talk, the more important left-hander in this conversation. And I love Crochet, loved what I saw against him against Shohei Ohtani, absolutely just dominated him in spring training. However, removed from last night's Reds game in the spring training in the spring training affair, Rick Hahn addresses the media today. He said the injury is not great. There appears to be some damage to the ligament, which very likely will require Tommy John surgery. That said, this is again preliminary, and he's going to seek a second opinion here in the coming days. And there is another quote here too that Scott Merkin tweeted out from Rick Hahn. He said, "If you want to take the glass half full side of things, at least from a timing standpoint, with regards to any Tommy John surgery, using the very generic approximate 11 to 13 months recovery for a reliever, we should have him back for the 2023 season if that is the case." Now, that's an interesting word that he used there, reliever. But let's talk about just the actual injury there. It could be, something he gets a second opinion on, and maybe it's just a grade 2 injury. He did not say that there was a tear. A tear would require surgery. If it's just damaged, maybe he can get away from not having a surgery here. But if they're going to be out with Crochet for 11 to 13 months, what's the timeline that you think he should be back on? Should they try to bring him back as a starter, or like Rick, refers there, a reliever's timeline?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they need to make up their mind about what they want, right? And I think they did that for a short-term decision for the 2022 season this winter. Now they have to do it for a long-term decision over the course of the next year. I think that if you look at everything that they've said about him and his long-term future, they want him to be a part of the starting rotation. Now, I think they were going to try to have their cake and eat it too, and make him a starter while he was pitching out of the major league bullpen. That seems challenging, but they were going to try to do that. Now you've got him not being able to pitch for a year.
Right.
And if he's going to be back next spring training, do you say, pick up where you left off and help us win the 2023 World Series as a reliever? Do they say, hey, we made a first-round pick of this guy, and he's a big leaguer and a good one, let him stay in the bullpen and be a good bullpen arm? Or do they say, we believe in that long-term future as a starting pitcher, time to get him ready to do that? They're going to need to take time to get him ready to do that. And on the other side of this recovery, do they say, all right, go to the minor leagues, whatever level it might be, and take your time, become a starter, build the workload, whether it's not until 2024 that he's in that rotation, at least you're going to give him time to do that. That's the decision that they have to make over the next year. I would think something like this would be very impactful in that decision-making. You take the short term out of it, basically, right? You take the short term of, man, we need this guy in the bullpen to win the World Series right now, and you can say, all right, what's best for our long-term health as an organization? If they believe that it's still him in the starting rotation, maybe this is the thing that makes that decision for them.
It is a good quote-unquote timeline right there. 11 to 13 months, he could be back for the start of next season. But again, if that's a reliever's timeline that he's on. The idea of him being a reliever was not what they drafted him in. They said that his floor would be a late inning reliever. Is this, we talk about Rick's mishaps as a GM. Like, if he's not turning into a starter, is this a mishap?
Absolutely not. He's a Major League Baseball player without any minor league experience. That's a win already. I know they draft him as their starter. You don't draft somebody that high as a reliever. But things change. The White Sox seem set for now at the starting rotation. If we looked at, none of these people are going to be leaving next year unless they're trading somebody. So he won't be coming back for 11 to 13 months, so he won't be ready to be a starter in the major leagues next year. I say his best role is probably a dominant reliever. I don't know if he's has a third pitch that he can get over the plate consistently. Fastball slider works in the bullpen. 99, 100 works. Filthy movement on that slider works. And I know probably for his own pocketbook later on. Being a reliever as opposed to being a starter is probably a little bit less money, but I think he can flourish as a reliever in the major leagues. I don't know if he can do that in the major leagues. I mean, barely did it at Tennessee.
Right. Well, he didn't.
Yeah. So, that's I know what they were trying to do, but things change. Plans change. And what's special to the White Sox, I think, is Garrett Crochet being a reliever for 2023 team. Now, if he wants to be a starter, Vinny's plan, perfect. Go to the minor leagues. Kill AA. Murder it. Get your arms stretched out. And then 2024, we got you, man. You're in our starting rotation. That would be my best plan because, as Vinny just said, they're trying to serve two masters, trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, hey, you're a reliever, but we're stretching you out to be a starter. That kind of worked out with Michael Kopech last year, and they're trying to roll dice again. And it probably, I don't know if you want to do that again in a championship window with a guy who I think can help your current team be a championship team instead of the 2024 team, which is best for Garrett Crochet. I look at it as best for the White Sox, and Garrett Crochet should look at that way too.
That's my biggest concern with that whole timeline is, 2023, I would be so hesitant to not have him on the 2023 playoff roster. I mean, if he's healthy and has been pitching, trying to build up to a starter, even if he's been building up to be a starter, I mean, he is one of your best 26 players in your organization. So you need to have him on your team in 2023 if he's healthy. I mean, that just seems to be a tough spot that they're in.
I'll bring this up. Next to, I believe, 22, 23, and maybe even 24. Guess who's all on the roster? Hendricks, Graveman, Kelly, Bummer.
Right.
I mean, I didn't look at it exactly. I think Kelly's might involve an option like that. But you're talking about Garrett Crochet not being needed to come in and be an eighth-inning guy in 23 or 24 for that matter. Mm-hmm. Maybe that helps with that decision-making process. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, there's one comment here from Pine Tar Keyboard saying, by the time he's back from Tommy John, it'll be, 4 years since he started more than 1 or 2 games. Hard to see that happening, which is a fair point brought up by Zach there. I think that's one of the bigger ones with Crochet. The fact that he doesn't have that minor league experience, the fact that he doesn't have a ton of starting experience, that's a big concern for me. You brought up the fact that he doesn't have a third pitch. Changeup, he only threw from August to September 12 of his changeups where he threw over 400 pitches. I mean, he only threw his changeup about 2% of the time. So, I mean, he doesn't have a pitch mix of a starter at this point. He doesn't have the stamina or experience of a starter. It does feel... And now he's got a year injury setback. That's a lot of hurdles for him to jump over. It just doesn't feel like it's a realistic timeline for him to ever be a starter, and I guess that's why Rick referred to him as a reliever there.
And I hope what you were talking about may become true. It's not as serious as we think. It's not as serious as Rick is intimating there that he might be out for a year. Maybe he gets a second opinion. The second opinion says, I feel like rehab would be best in his interest, and he comes back at the end of the year. I'm just praying for that. Yeah,
I'm hoping for the best for Garrett Crochet. It would suck not to see him in 2022. It sounds like it's a possibility that we won't see him in 2022. I would like to see him become a starter because I just like to see him pitch. He's a very, very entertaining player to pitch. So if I get to watch him every 5 days for 6 innings, that'd be great. But best of luck to him in his recovery. Hopefully it's better news. Maybe it's just a grade 2. I was reading about it. Grade 2, since it's close to the...
Dr. Anderson over here.
It's got good circulation, so grade 2 can heal on itself. So, they won't... Obviously, you can't wait too much longer because, you want him to be back as soon as possible. But, obviously we'll get the second opinion and get more news on Garrett Crochet. But a big loss for the White Sox bullpen. If you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we will help you out. And very importantly, online sign-up is back and available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Now, we've had some good. We've had some bad. Now it's time to have a guest. Very excited to have this guest on. A big guest, a big lifelong Sox fans. He is the host of Hot Ones, First We Feast Hot Ones. It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. And he's tailor-made to be a weatherman. It's Shawn Evans. Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
Good, good. You guys can hear me? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. You sounding real clear, sounding real clean, and heard you're out in the West Coast today. How's the West Coast treating you?
So far so good. Nice weather, good vibes, sunshine coming in on my face over here. So all good over here on the West Coast.
Would it be a good day for a Chicago architecture tour?
It would be a beautiful day for a Chicago architecture tour. These are the types of days that I dreamed of, like the beautiful sunshine, great for photography, nice and clear, a little nice breeze, not too hot. It's perfect.
Yeah, you're the host of Hot Ones, but formerly, when you were in Chicago, you're an alum of Chicago's First Lady and the Chicago Architecture Center, giving tours on the Chicago River. It is a Friday. I like to do trivia on Fridays, so if you want to, humor me here, I got 5 buildings for you. Knowing your history, you said you've given this tour in your dreams. You think about this tour still to this day. I want to give you 5 buildings. You want to give me the height of it in feet?
All right, I'll try. I'll try the best that I can. I'll try the best that I can here.
I'll start you easy here. Formerly the Sears Tower, the Willis Tower. How tall is it?
1,451 feet tall, 110 stories.
Dang. Tribune Tower.
Tribune Tower, 952 feet tall.
Oh, you made that up, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. No, actually, there's no way it can be. Hold on, let me run that back. I mean, that would make it a berserk, like crazy tall tower. But I feel like it does end in 52, but probably like 352 or 452 or something like that.
You're getting closer. 496 on the Tribune Tower.
Yeah.
Civic Opera House. Remember that one?
Yeah, the 35-story Civic Opera building right there on the river. You have the armchair style. I believe that was designed by Graham Anderson, Probst, and White, 1929, 1931. But it's not too tall. I'm good on the tall buildings where people care about how tall they are. I don't know if anyone cares how tall the Civic Opera building is, but I will guess. Probably in the range, it's got to be, I'm going to go 329 feet tall.
555 feet, so a little bit bigger than the Tribune Tower.
Yeah, underestimating.
I'll give you one more big one. Maybe you'll know this one. I used to work by this one, the Aon Building. You remember that one? I saw it was on the tour.
Yeah, Aon Building. Yep, Aon Building was sneakily, a lot of people think that the Hancock is the second tallest building in Chicago. But when I was doing that tour, it was the Aon Building. I know there's so much stuff going up all the time there. Every time I go back, I can hardly recognize the skyline. But let me think real quick. So I'm going to go with 1,210 feet tall.
Close. 1,136. I'll give it to you, Shawn. I'll be nice. The most important thing, though, is you spell your name right. I'll open up the panel here. We got Herb Lawrence, Vinnie Duber out here. I'm Shawn Anderson. I spell it the right way, too. It's SEAN. Thanks for joining us and playing the trivia game there.
And Shawn, with Hot Ones.
I loved it.
And Hot Ones, like from an outsider's view, and I say this about athletes all the time, the most important thing is not having the right stuff, having a good bat. It's about confidence. And from an outsider's view, I think you have supreme confidence, not only eating the wings, but asking the questions to the people. How much do you think your confidence and the producer's confidence plays into the success of that show? Because you're a relatively unknown person asking these questions to big-time stars, and it went seamless.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take the compliment. Sometimes it's, doing an interview is an interesting thing because you're always trying to create that rhythm, create that energy, create that chemistry with someone who you're meeting for the very first time. And then you're doing it in the performative context of, 5 cameras on you guys and the lights and putting it on TV or whatever. So when you do something like that, it's and especially too when you're working with unique personalities, that's a unique dance every single time to try to catch that thing. I am a self-aware person. I feel like I pick up on social cues and body language maybe a little bit better than other people and kind of find those spots. But overall, I think if there's any reason that I think I can do it every time I step in, it's just from the preparation, feeling like I have everything pinned down. I have all my information. I have what I think on paper should work based on everything that I've seen in the past. So you just go in there and try the best that you can to make it something worth watching. And that's worked pretty well for us. But I don't have like any secret to it. And I still feel the butterflies every time we have an episode. So all of that happens the same exact way. But I have confidence in the fact that I've done everything that I can to prepare myself for it to be as best as I can. So just take your swing and see what happens.
Shawn, you're a Sox fan. You're a former architecture tour guide. Let's get your ballpark review of Guaranteed Rate Field.
I actually, so I remember back in the day, like one of my earliest memories is going to the old Comiskey Park. And then you remember when they first built the cell, it was like all the blue all over the place. And that kind of looked like a jailhouse ballpark. It was not a pretty looking ballpark. But I will say the renovations, like what they've done with that frame, with like the ivy, the palette, the smells that come from US Cellular Field, it's the most like grounding, takes me back to my childhood place that I can be in the entire world. Every year I try to get back and I get those same exact feelings that I had when I was a kid. So that is, if we're talking about buildings in Chicago and architecture, it's in the top 3 or 4, most important landmarks in the city for me, and maybe top 2 and maybe not even 2,
Yeah, I know you love Wrigley Field. I mean, is Wrigley more important than Guaranteed Rate in your mind?
To the history and to the culture and all of those things, obviously Wrigley Field and Fenway Park are kind of in a field in a total, atmosphere of their own. But US Cellular, I think it is just the most special place to me. But yeah, ballpark to ballpark. I mean, you pull 100 people on the street and compare the two, that's going to be an 89-11.
Shawn,
sort of.
Sorry, with the news today with the White Sox acquiring AJ Pollock, lifelong White Sox fan, how do you feel about it?
It feels pretty good. I think, and I'd like to dig into this a little bit because remember last year when I was on the podcast, the thing that Sox fans were all crazy about when we talked last year, Herb, was when was about like signing La Russa. And remember me at the time, I was like, he's good. He'll be fine. Like I was zigging when everyone else was zagging on that. And I felt kind of the same way about the way that the team was structured going into this year, like out in right field. I felt kind of bullish on sort of the combination of Sheets and Vaughn and Angle and even Adolfo, coming through and like finding one of those guys to find it and take over right field. I felt kind of good about it. But then when the news came in today, it just seems like there's like a real pillar there. There's something solid there that I think should give fans a lot of hope going into this next season. And I'm one of them.
You nailed that. I mean, that's exactly what we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
The first 20 minutes.
A much more concise version of our first block of the show today.
He's not an Obama Sox fan. He's a Sox fan.
Right.
Sox
Yeah.
fan.
No, and that's the copywriter in him.
And
Shawn, I appreciate that.
Shawn, we were going to ask you. I mean, I know Shawn Anderson here on the panel is going to ask you, like, who would you say is top White Sox celebrity fan?
Yeah, well, I want to go into this because I got a graphic too. I don't know if you could see our graphics, but just going into the hot ones, guest, I was trying to find all the White Sox connection. You had Chance the Rapper wear a White Sox hat on the show. Idris Elba just was seen wearing a White Sox shirt in a Sonic 2 promo shoot that he was doing. Will Ferrell played in a White Sox spring training game. Hannibal Buress is a lifetime Sox fan. And then the picture that you see right here is you telling Anthony Rizzo that Jose Abreu is a better first baseman than him. So if you have to take, throw out, who's the best celebrity White Sox ambassador, who is it in your mind, and are you in the competition too?
That's an interesting question. I think a name that maybe got left out in that, I like Bob Odenkirk as somebody that we can kind of throw into that mix as well. But I'd like to think I'm kind of up there. I guess we'll see. But I threw out the first pitch last year. I felt like it got a good pop by the standards of first pitches before the game starts. So I'd like to think that I'm up there. But I'm not out here to try to coalesce brands and anything like that. This is just something that a team that I've been watching and a team that I've spent a lot of hours rooting for, and I've had the highs and all of the lows and everything in between. So I'd like to think that they show me a lot of love every time I go to the stadium. So I'd like to think that. But maybe Bob Odenkirk, you have that, the Obama first pitch, but then he said like the Weiss thing on the perfect game. So I don't know. There's some give and take there. So maybe some people who are more recognizable, but I don't think there's anybody that roots harder.
In the seats, when you're in the stands, what's your all-time favorite moment at that ballpark? Just watching a game.
Okay, so my last night in Chicago, my very last night in Chicago, I went to a game before I moved to New York City, and that was a game against the Rays where Jose Abreu hit a walk-off.
Oh my goodness, was that game? This is a rookie
year.
That was awesome.
Game. I was at that game, and I caught like a batting practice home run clean in the left field bleachers, and then saw the walk-off. And then the next day hopped on a plane to go to New York City, left Chicago, and that was like, 8 or 9 years ago. So that was the walk-off moment. I also remember, though, when I was in high school, they used to do this thing where it was like half-price Tuesdays. They used to do these half-price Tuesday night things. And I remember I was at a game there where I was sitting in the right field bleachers, and Jose Valentin hit a walk-off bomb from the left side that went flying over my head. So those are two walk-offs that I was at. So those maybe stand out off the top of my head without thinking about it too much.
Yeah, that Abreu game's legendary. April 26, 2014. That's a grand slam
on my
walk-off,
birthday.
too.
On my birthday.
Look at you. Happy birthday, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's
that was a great
little
one.
early. But that moment, he almost killed Hawk Harrelson in that moment. I mean, Hawk Harrelson went crazy in that moment. Obviously, you were at the game. You don't remember the call, but we love just doing Hawk impersonations here. You got any fond Hawk memories? I mean, you got a favorite Hawk saying?
Yeah, well, I used to like when he would just almost just curse. That was my favorite thing. Like, I liked when he's like, and that ball hit deep, way back. And then he'd go like, dag nabbit. When he hit the dag nabbit, you could tell that he wanted to say something else. And it was like this close to slipping all the time. But I guess my favorite Hawk meltdown was they were playing the Rays at a game at Tropicana. And I forget the context, but I think he threw out Burley, or there was a pitcher that got thrown out when the warnings, and he had that ladies and gentlemen, here is an umpire in the American League who knows nothing about the game of baseball. And I think he ended up getting suspended or something after that, but it was just a good classic unhinged Hawk rant. And I love Steve and I love Jason, but they don't make them like Hawk anymore. Like these guys that could basically, like what you'd imagine at some AAA team in the 1980s, except he was doing it for the White Sox for a lot of years. But that's what I miss, is those unhinged sort of Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights rants.
Well, kind of in that frame, I want to ask you, because you mentioned people sending you in guest requests, have Gordon Ramsay on. You guys finally had Gordon Ramsay on. You mentioned Dave Grohl was one of the second most requested guests in the history, but you said you kind of have a Vince McMahon thing about Hot Ones, where you know what people want more than what they know what they want. When you look at the athletes out there, it's tough to have a good athlete interview. Obviously, your show leads to getting better answers due to your questions and the Wings. But is there a certain entertainer or personality in the sports world that you think is perfect for Hot Ones?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny that you say that, because I think that too. I think the athlete interview is one of the hardest nuts to crack as a genre in the entire, in the entire spectrum. But I think that, guys that come from UFC, guys from boxing, they're naturally good interviews because they're storytellers along with that. So as an athlete, they're kind of the exception. But in the sports world, I think the most sort of made in a lab kind of Hot Ones guest is Charles Barkley. I think he's the funniest athlete, just actually funny. He's the funniest athlete, I think, of our lifetime.
And with baseball and with your Tampa Bay thing, it was Mark Wagner, I believe, and it's Jose Quintana.
Mark Wagner. Here's an umpire in the American League who knows nothing about the game of baseball. And I remember he said, Wagner, he'd do that. Wagner.
What are you doing, Wagner?
What are you doing? Yeah,
that is Paul Konerko's favorite Hawk moment too, and he is on camera doing an impression of him doing it. So you and Paulie got something in common there.
Good company.
I was wondering, is there a baseball city Not necessarily to go to the baseball game, but is there a baseball city that you haven't been to that might be on your list?
Yeah, I want to go to that ballpark in San Diego. Like mostly because I just want to, take the boys out for like a lad's trip to San Diego and be a good excuse to see that ballpark. But that's an interesting question. I try to hit as many as I can. Like when I'm traveling around, if I'm free and available, I'll go to a game. So I've knocked out a lot of ballparks over the years. But Fenway, I've never been to. I'm going to go. Actually, I'm doing this event in Boston, and it lines up with the White Sox playing at Fenway. So I'm going to do that this year, and I'm really excited about that. So that's number one thing that I'm excited for. But just on like cool day game vibes, I really want to hit that ballpark in San Diego.
You will not be disappointed. It's awesome. It's my second favorite one behind PNC.
Hell yeah. PNC looks sick too. Yeah, those are a bunch there's a bunch I have to cross off the list and some of the crown jewels.
I think every guest we've had on so far, we've asked, you get one White Sox jersey from any year. What are you buying? What are you throwing on for a game?
Oof. Well, my favorite jersey is that 1983. The throwbacks, like that across. So, like, who would I get from that? Like, is Carlton Fisk or Dick Allen or who else would have been like from that time? But
Ozzie.
My favorite. Ozzie, yeah, an Ozzie 83 throwback would be, that would be a Grail jersey for me. And then, favorite player of all time, I wore a Frank Thomas jersey when I threw out the first pitch last year. My favorite White Sox player, and there it is too. That's actually, if you look at the date, April 26, 2014, that's the Jose Abreu.
Oh, look at that. I pulled that just because I wanted to mention the patch on it too. You got the 75th anniversary of Comiskey, and you're sitting in the best damn seats in the house, 161. That's where I saw Burley's perfect game. So I love that picture completely, doing your deep dive in your Insta.
Hell yeah, and corroborating the story.
Exactly. And I didn't even know I was doing it. So, got lucky there. I want to go down one route with you. It's not a Hot Ones route. It's not a White Sox route. During the pandemic, I think we might have all fell into like YouTube holes, just random things, just, clicking at recommended video after recommended video. One of those holes was a David Letterman hole for me. I love like David Letterman at the Taco Bell drive-thru. That's one of my favorite bits.
Yeah,
I know that he's
that's an amazing bit.
One of your heroes. What's your favorite Letterman bit or interview that you can recall?
Well, I did like that one. I did like that. I did like those bits, and he used to do that all the time. It'd be like at Taco Bell, he'd do different drive-thrus, and those were the funniest bits. But I kind of like the absurdity. That the thing that I liked about Letterman is he seemed like he was doing, and I think even Paul Rudd said this on Hot Ones, and it rang true to me, is that he almost was doing this big, huge network late night show as if no one was watching. So the weirdness of it all, like it almost had like cable access vibes to it when they're dropping things off of the roof and they have these stupid human tricks, or like the doors open up and it's just like a person, like a woman in basically like steel or metal underwear taking a blade saw and taking it to herself as just sparks go all over the place. Or if he'd had quarterbacks on and they're just throwing footballs through cab windows and stuff. It was just the goofy things that he was doing that always endeared me to him. And then also his irreverence and just sort of almost like he had almost an approach like somebody who dreads and was just like sort of going through the motions of their job, but he was doing it as, one of the biggest entertainers in the world. I liked his ease, his self-awareness, his not taking himself too seriously. The harmony, Corain interviews, I think, are like especially good. I liked the Richard Simmons stuff, like blasting him out with a fire extinguisher when he goes out on stage. Those things I liked a lot. So yeah, those are probably some of my favorite interviews. He used to do like the Marv Albert stuff with the highlights that I always used to love as a kid. So too many to name, but absolute legend.
One I found, and he's doing, Jack Black is doing a press tour for Gulliver's Travels, and it's a 5-minute segment. And you talk about the absurdity. And get this, Shawn, I know this might be a new concept to you. David Letterman gives Jack Black jalapeno pepper, serrano pepper, habanero pepper with the Scoville units. Jack Black eats all 3 of them and then gets a pitch for Culver's travel. Does that sound familiar to you?
You know what? I never saw that, but yeah, wow. He's like the patron saint of hot ones.
Yeah, Jack mentioned it with the Kyle Gass Tenacious D one. It was a little brief one, but yeah, he did it. It was basically like mini hot runs trial for Jack Black.
Oh, I have to go track this down. But yeah, that's the genius of Dave right there.
Right. Oh, I just thought it was interesting. You guys overlap.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do another chili? What is it? Scotch bonnet or Carolina Reaper with your man Chili Klaus?
I don't think so, unless he makes. I can't say no to Chili Klaus. He's just he has a way about him. But so if he asked in the right way at the right time with the right concept, I don't think that there's any way that I could say no, but I'm definitely not seeking it out to do that again. You do that once, that's plenty. You do that twice, that's just dumb. And if you do that 3 times, I don't know where that puts me.
And I think in the episode, one of the 2 episodes that I've seen with you and Chili doing that, it's the enjoyment I get is kind of like the enjoyment a person who's sitting at home, a scratch golfer, sees a guy struggle at the British Open. Because I never see you sweat until I see those episodes. I'm like, oh, yeah, Shawn's a human. He's not that machine that I think he is usually when he's doing those regular Hot One interviews. But, yeah, those are my favorite. I know that's pain for you, but, if you can get Chili, and just bring him to the ballpark. I'll introduce him to some Jardiniere.
Just so long as it's a joy to you, Herb, then it's all worth it.
I mean, can he take down Jardiniere?
I imagine he's a garbage disposal, spice garbage disposal. I don't think he'd have any problem with that.
All right, Shawn, got to send you off on this. You got a prediction for the 2022 White Sox? You coming in hot with any predictions for the 2022 Sox, or are you just going to try to enjoy the season and see where the ride takes you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a see where the ride takes me kind of guy. I believe in Rick Hahn and trust in Rick Hahn and love rooting for this team. I think. And I could go on this for a couple of minutes. So I'll try to
take your time, man. Take your time.
All right,
we're
fine.
good. Let's see the genius work.
All right. Here's my full take on this season. So I think you can mark them down for winning the AL Central. I think that they're a better team than they were last year. And the AL Central, kind of stinks. Like maybe with the exception of the NL Central, it's the worst division in baseball. Whatever. It's before the season. Anything can happen. But just on paper, when I look at it, I see the same thing that I saw the last couple seasons where the White Sox are a step ahead of everybody else in that regard. And then the NL East is kind of stacked. So they might all beat up on each other. And who knows, the White Sox could end up in that spot where they get that 2 seed, be able to pick your opponent kind of playoff situation. I think that's something that can easily happen. And the reason that I think that is because there's so many guys on this team that we don't know what their ceiling is. They haven't hit their ceiling, like maybe Luis Robert is a top 5 player in baseball. Like that might be true. We don't know the kind of step forward that Andrew Vaughn will take. Like maybe Moncada hits like he did in 2019, but then he feels like he has like the last couple seasons. Tim Anderson, Abreu, Grandal, Eloy not hurt. Like you don't know where the ceiling is on any of these guys. So you imagine even if some things miss or there's some injuries, you have to imagine that this team right now is better than it was before. There are people that talk about the pitching staff, being one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. I know Garrett Crochet went down, but the bullpen is pretty stacked, still there. So, you have really good pitching. You have a deep kind of bullpen, or maybe they can add another arm now, but then a good lineup. So I guess we'll see what happens. The knock against the White Sox has always been, at least the last couple seasons, that, they'll go 18-2 against the Royals and Tigers and then lose every game against the Yankees, the Red Sox and the Rays. And every time they have a Sunday night baseball game, there is that situation. So, but I think this is another year beating up on the division. I think that they take a step forward. I kind of like the way that the offseason has kind of the way it shook out as we talk today. So all of those things feel pretty good to me. It did seem, when I went to 4 White Sox Yankees games last year, White Sox lost them all. I think if you
don't remind me.
Yeah, if you looked at the game, you looked at the series against the Astros, and almost, if they played 10 times, like I think the Astros would have won 8. Did they get over that hump, where they're just, not in that bronze trophy or just off of the winner's circle level. I think that's kind of where they were last year, but this year guys are healthy. I like the way that it lines up. Team's fun to root for, good locker room, tight group of guys. So I'm just ready to ride with them. I'm just ready to ride for them another year.
And your guy Tony La Russa too, Shawn.
And and I said it was good. It was good. Tight locker room. They all seem to love him, and I was right about that. So I hope I'm right about this too. Yeah,
it seems like you were trying to say what MJ once said: the ceiling is the roof for the 2022 White Sox. So it should be an exciting season.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're down in Chicago. We could see catch a game or a few down here.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Appreciate your time, Shawn. He's the host of Hot Ones, First We Feast Hot Ones on YouTube. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Shawn, the right spelling, SEANCSEA Evans, Shawn C. Evans on Twitter and Instagram. Host of Hot Ones, Shawn Evans, thank you so much for your time, and go Sox.
Go Sox.
That's a way to send him off. Thank you, Shawn, for your time. Really great to talk to him. Going to wrap it up. For Vinnie Duber, you can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. For Herb Lawrence, you can follow him on Twitter at Ecternwall23. I'm Shawn Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Shawn_W_Anderson. This is a big weekend. We'll see what unfolds of AJ Pollock now becoming a White Sox, what unfolds of Garrett Crochet's injury, and hopefully, Shawn Evans is right. The ceiling is the roof for this Chicago White Sox team. You can follow the CHGO White Sox page on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. We will be back on Monday with our talk of the AL Central. Who is the biggest foe for the White Sox in the 2022 AL Central? We'll talk about that here on Monday on the CHGO White Sox podcast.